Alaska 2017, our keynote speaker, Alyssa London.
Thank you, Ganesh. This is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I'm so touched. Yeah, so I just gave up my Miss Alaska crown, or no, I passed it on to Miss Alaska 2018 the other day. So I haven't been able to wear a sash for a few days, but now I have a new one. So that worked out. Klinget ayachat yachediadi yochak dosach chach nahatsati dachloedi ayachat and gunkwan ayachat. My Klinget name is Yachediadi. I am Eagle Killerwell, and my family is originally from Angoon, Alaska, but someone told me yesterday also Klukwan, so raise your hand if you there. He's like, I told her. I'm very proud of my Tlingit ancestry, to the extent that I worked with Prince and Singletary, as you probably saw, to put killer whales on my Miss USA gown. And I brought this up with me today because I wanted to show you that my work is continuing after Miss Alaska in showcasing the pride I have for my culture and heritage. I'm working with Preston to make little Barbie doll of my Miss Alaska gown. I have the distinct honor of speaking to a lot of Native youth. I get to do that this afternoon as well at NAYA. And my thought with this was that when I go and speak, that I can gift these little Barbie doll robes to little Native girls so that they can be playing and thinking about their culture from a very young age, because I think that is one of the most important things that we can do for our youth, is instill a strong sense of identity into them from a young age. Because I believe when you have a strong identity, you're able to go out into the world with greater confidence. And that's what I believe my Tlingit culture and heritage has really done for me. It's instilled me with a sense of belonging, because I have, at any given time, a whole community behind me that is supporting me in my endeavors. So Ganesh to all of you. Thank you for all the support. And to build on that, a Miss Alaska, not to toot my own horn, but hasn't made top 10 or become a finalist at Miss USA since, 1990, so about 30 years. And the reason for pointing that out is typically in pageantry, the women that place the highest are the ones that have the largest voting blocks behind them, because that's a part of what gets you into the top 10. And just population-wise in Alaska, it's hard to rival many of the other states. But one of the things that I think pushed me over to the edge and into being able to be a finalist at Miss USA was because I had the whole Alaska Native community around the country, and also the greater American Indian community behind me. And so again, the power of community support is just amazing. And that's why I'm so touched that we have groups like A&B and A&S, because just anytime we can all get together and talk about the ways that we can use the strength of our community to strengthen our youth, to strengthen our future, I just think that the ability that we have to make great change when we come together is absolutely fantastic. And I was a beneficiary of that strength. So again, Ganeshish, thank you. So a story I wanted to tell was about how how ANCSA and Alaska Native Brotherhood and Sisterhood has actually impacted my life from, well, definitely probably when I was born, but most notably starting when I was 18. So when I was around 10, I think my dad took me to Stanford, if not for the first time I remembered, and I had this goal. I wanted to attend and graduate from Stanford. I think it was mostly the palm trees that hearkened me there. It was very warm, and but fast forward to working hard throughout the years and eventually getting accepted. You got to figure out how to pay for pay for a school like that. And I started getting exposed to different scholarships that are available to youth in our community. And that's something that I like to share with youth when I speak to them, is that there is always a path to getting your education. Because of our community, when there's a will, there's a way. One of the scholarships that I went after was the Holland and Knight Young Native Writers Essay Contest. And in this essay contest, you had to choose a topic that you were going to write about that pertained to the history of your tribe and your culture and your people. So I'm talking about this with my dad, and he starts telling me about the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, which, at 17, 18, I have to say I didn't know much about that. And through this process of writing this essay, I actually learned quite a bit about ANS and A and B, and ended up enjoying writing this paper. I remember doing it during spring break, and I ended up winning the National Essay Contest and being able to put that money towards my Stanford education. What I learned through the process of writing that paper is that you guys have worked really hard, first of all, in order to advocate for the rights of our people, but also to make sure that there were structures in place, such as the Native Corps, in order to provide for the things that my generation has gotten to benefit from: the internships, the scholarships, the culture camps, the language preservation efforts. That's all a result of all the work that was done back then, and it's just, and I know there's so much more work to be done, but having written that paper and gotten to read about the sacrifices that were made and the triumphs that were had, I just feel very positive and inspired about how we can continue to move our people forward and overcome the obstacles that we face today. So whenever we need to point to something to give us strength, I think that just revisiting, wow, if we could achieve that, we can achieve anything. Like, that's what I took from that paper. I want to thank James Lanos for inviting me to become a member of Camp 14, which my Boyd family lives in Ketchikan, so it felt only appropriate to join the Ketchikan camp. But I also want to honor what he asked me to do, which was, speak to the future of A&B and ANS for our youth. And in addition to doing unique things like Miss Alaska Barbie doll robes, or going and speaking to youth, not only through my time as Miss Alaska, because I got to travel in quite a few places around the state, but especially in Southeast Alaska. I want to talk about this children's book that I finished writing a few months ago, but that is currently being illustrated and that I've been applying to grants to fund. It's called Journey of the Freckled Indian, and my grandfather, under this makeup, actually has some freckles, and my grandfather, when I visit him in Ketchikan, especially growing up, it was just something that I struggled with, and that I had to come to terms with. It was that I didn't feel like I looked Native. I actually grew up in the greater Seattle area, and my dad would come in and to the classroom during show and tell and show the Box of Daylight story on VHS, or some pieces of regalia, and I'd explain to my class that I was Tlingit, and had also tried to talk to them about the vitality of Native American culture today. And I would get some pushback, like, oh, how much Tlingit are you, or how Native are you? You can't actually be, because I am light-skinned and frankly don't look like Pocahontas. So, so over the years, that was one of the things that I had to come to terms with my identity. And now I am so strong and confident in that I am a Tlingit woman that I was able to go in front of 3 million people at Miss USA and even say it in my Tlingit language, Tlingit Ayahut. So so when I wrote this book, that was my mindset, is I'm sure I'm not the only youth or child that growing up that struggled with coming to terms with who she is. So how can I use my story in order to help inspire other people to be confident in who they are? And so that's what Journey of the Freckled Indian is about. It's about a little native girl growing up in the outskirts of Seattle, kind of getting made fun of by her classmates and telling her that she's not native, and then her parents sending her up to Ketchikan to learn what it means to be Tlingit. And going through the experience of going around the Saxman Totem Pole Park and learning about form line art and carving, but there's a mystical or mythical aspect to it too, as Eagle and Raven banter and make fun of her for not realizing she just is Tlingit, and so Raven puts the idea in her head that she has to go and convince her grandfather to take her fishing, and she has to catch the largest fish in the entire ocean in order to be a real Tlingit. So when she goes out fishing, she does hook the largest fish in the ocean, and he pulls her into the water, but Killer Whale puts a bubble around her so that she can breathe, and he taunts her. He's like, "You thought you could catch me? You thought that would make you a real Tlingit?" And then Killer Whale comes out of the darkness and is like, "You don't need to catch this guy to be Tlingit, you just are." And then once she understands that, Killer Whale pushes her back up to the surface with the force of her blowhole, and she lands back in the boat with her grandfather, Grandpa Ernie, and they share a knowing glance. And then she goes back to school, and the kids are like, "Where were you?" And she's like, "Oh, I was in Ketchikan with my tribe and with my grandfather." And they're like, "Oh, no, you still think you're part of a tribe?" She's like, "I know I am." And then she turns it back on them and says, "Do you know who you are and where you come from?" So that's the book. So again, to deliver on what James asked me to speak to, I believe the themes in that book are what our children need to be told. They just are who they are. Many of us are mixed, and we will only continue to be as our generations go forward, but that doesn't mean that we should not still lift up our culture and be very proud of who we are and who we come from. And that is something that I absolutely love about being Tlingit, is that when I come to an event like this, I get to sit down and hear about my great-grandmother. That's just touched me so much. Thank you. And I just feel such a sense of home and purpose, and I want to make sure as many of our youth get to have that same sense of grounding when in their life, because I think that'll help them be successful. Ganashish, thank you.
As a Raven, I would like to respond to our Eagle Killer Whale keynote speaker. Thank her for her time. Thank her for her energy. Thank her for encouragement. And thank her for joining Alaska Native Sisterhood. She is one that's going to carry on our